I've got the comms link attached here, plugged in the top. I've had to do some fiddling of the plastic there. There's a big plastic moulding that fits on top of one of the PCBs, and that was getting fouled by some components, so I think I'll have to move some around. I put a smaller inductor on and I cut a bit of plastic off the moulding, and it does actually fit in there. If we turn it on, running off a battery here, so there's some extra bars there. They're the Wi-Fi bars. Not really worried about that at the moment. It takes a while for the Wi-Fi to start up. Once that happens, you get the menu. There you go, select English, and we're in here. And down the bottom, you can see that comms is there, so it's loaded the ROM from the comms link. And if I press execute, it runs it. You can go into setup, and that's the settings, and you can come back out and transmit a file, send main, and it's done it. So because the real hardware's there, I think a lot of the signals are probably okay, but obviously because this uses, I believe, the serial output capability of slots, which I haven't put in there at the moment, actually sending and receiving data won't work. I think it will be possible to do that though, because those lines are coming directly off the processor. At least I hope I wired it up that way. I'll have to check that. And we can set up one of the PIOs in the Raspberry Pi to generate a UART signal. So we can send and receive on any pins using effectively programmable hardware in that chip. So that should work, and that means the comms link, there's a good chance of that working once I do a bit of code and verify the hardware. So the ROM is read in. I mean, that's not a surprise because that just uses common signals from the data pack slots, and they work as well. So it's looking good for the comms link. It means I've wired up the signals to that slot correctly. There is one small problem in that it won't turn off properly now, because the comms link is holding it on, because I've got an inversion of the keyboard scanning levels. I've got levels that you pull up to actually detect a key, so you detect a key pressed with a 1, but the original organiser was a 0, and I've inverted everything in firmware, but obviously I can't invert it on the signal coming in from the comms link. So either I put an inverter on that signal, which should work, or I invert the keyboard scanning signals actually in hardware. So I'll have a think about that and maybe do some prototyping. So that's one problem that I found. Yeah, but the fact that it reads the it won't come on again now, it's stuck in the off loop. The fact that it reads the code is good. That means that there's no major problems with the top slot. It's probably going to be necessary to try out every bit of hardware really and see which ones do and which ones don't work. The signals, if they're using signals from the data pack slots, the data bus and so on, which they do, then it will probably just work. So I think my top slot adapter board might probably just work in there. I'll have to find that. I'm not sure where it is. But everything else, depending on what it uses, I think the only special hardware capabilities is this serial line that can come out of one of the data lines, and I think that can be emulated using the PIOs in the RP2040. So yeah, some hardware, most hardware will work. I think the comms link's probably the one that would be most useful. So I think a little bit of work in getting that going is probably worthwhile.